The Finance Committee special meeting on Wednesday, October 15th will be called to order at 10 a.m. Madam City Clerk, would you, well, I'll just call the roll. Alderwoman Finlayson.
Present.
We're going to unmute ourselves. Sorry, Alderwoman O'Neill. We're calling the roll. Are you present? Okay. We saw that. I can't hear her. Oh, there we go.
Screen.
She said, I haven't seen.
Can you say something? Nope.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Not off. Video's on.
We're still getting some feedback.
I hear a lot of feedback.
The next item on the agenda is
I can't hear them talking.
And then just
And then I'll rejoin.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. Sorry, Julie. All right. We're redoing. We've called the order. We've called the roll. Oh, I think I didn't say I'm present, but of course I'm present. Mr. City Attorney, would you please present the next? Miss City Attorney, would you please present the next item on the agenda?
the next item on the agenda is business and miscellaneous, beginning with ID-134-24, a proposed closed session pursuant to the Annotated Code of Maryland, General Provisions, Section 3-305B, 10, and 7. Discussion topic, public safety appropriation.
At this time, I would entertain a motion to move pursuant to the Annotated Code of Maryland, General Provisions, Article, Section 3-305B, 10, and 7 to go into closed session. Is there a second?
I'll move to go into closed session.
And
Second.
Okay, good. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, I will call the roll. Alderwoman Finlayson,
Aye.
Alderwoman O'Neill,
Aye.
and Alderman Huntley. Aye. The motion passes. The council is now in closed session. I'll ask everyone to please turn off their microphones.
They never came back.
Yeah. Visually, I think we are. They can see us, I believe. Okay. And then we need to vote on Got it. We're gonna do the FT first, and then we'll go. So everybody, all right? Kayla, we're good on the TV. Okay. All right. Is there a motion to approve FT 326?
Move approval.
All those.
Second.
Oh, thank you. All those in favor of approving FT 326, please say aye.
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 Motion carries. Moving on, we need an approval of the agenda. Is there a motion to approve the Finance Committee meeting agenda for October 15th as written?
Move approval of the agenda as written.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Next, approving our minutes from the meeting on the 1st. Is there a motion for approval?
Move approval of the minutes from the October 1 meeting.
And I will second because I believe Alderwoman O'Neill wasn't here for that. So all those in favor,
I was
please.
here.
Oh, sorry. That must have been the previous one. My bad. Would you like to? All right. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 All those opposed, motion carries. All right. On to FT 226, which is also from APD. Hello. Captain Miguez, do you want to come up and talk about this one? I guess we got to get you a mic. We don't have a mic for you on the table. But I know this is a state grant.
Yes, Captain Amy Miguez with Annapolis Police Department. The SAP, State Aid for Police Protection, it's a grant we receive every year. They calculate the number based on statistics of number of officers and crime rate. And that's how they decide how much to send us.
But we didn't get it this year, right?
We get it every year.
This
I
says
guess
we
the
did
number,
not get it.
I guess it fluctuates, and maybe that's why it's on the agenda.
May I? This says the
Yeah.
grant was not awarded for FY 2026.
For SAP?
FY 26 PAC grant, it says the
Oh.
grant was not awarded.
Sorry, I thought you were talking about the State Aid for Police Protection grant.
Ah, no.
The Police and Community Together
Mhm.
grant, no, it was not awarded to us this year. We did not get it.
Ms. Moran, why is this a fund transfer? Because we're de-appropriating money? Fund transfer?
The way that the grants work is that the salaries are included in the general fund,
Yeah.
but then we reimburse ourselves with the grant in the grant fund.
All right. I don't. We didn't get the grant. I'm not going to spend a bunch of time on the specifics. I trust you guys got the paperwork right. Any other questions?
Well, I just want to be clear. We didn't get the $70,000 grant that we traditionally get. So we are absorbing the cost in our salaries line item.
Yes, of the general fund, correct.
Okay. Can we find out how much is left in that line item? And I'm not in disagreement with this, but we seem to have money that we can use. And I think we should know how much is there that is being utilized.
Yes, we can update, but just keep in mind that it's very early in the fiscal year.
I'm
still.
sorry, say that again?
I said just keep in mind it's very early in the fiscal year still, so we can't give a definite of what is left. We can't really predict overtime or any of those things, but I will say that in the FY26 budget, we built in a vacancy savings of 6 positions. And with the elimination of the other, there is still vacancy savings, but we can give you an update.
And particularly the cost of those 6 positions. That would give us a general idea of what we're talking about.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Chair, I'll move that we give a favorable recommendation for FT 226.
Thank you. Is there a second? Yeah, there's a nodded second. All right. All those in
Second.
favor. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. We have. No, I thought we maybe had another APD grant. We do. I'll exercise my prerogative to not make Captain Migas jump up and down too much and jump ahead to SA 1226.
Now, is this the state aid for police protection?
This is Anne Arundel County 911 grant.
Oh, okay. So this is also something that we receive kind of automatically. These are from fees that we all see on our cell phone bill and other bills. Those funds go to 911 funding. So we get a portion of the amount that goes to Anne Arundel County. And we can only use this for phone-related expenses. And I believe the salaries as well. But I'm sure finance could tell you more where the money goes once we get it for that. Does it go to salaries as well?
Salaries and supplies.
Yeah.
Yes.
And so only supplies have to be related to like the phone. It can't even be the radio system, or that it has to be specifically related to the phone where we answer 911.
Got it.
And just to add a little bit of clarity, so we've consistently budgeted at a certain amount, but the grant is coming in much higher than we've budgeted. So this is just correcting the revenue coming in and offset by the expenditure. So we did budget for this grant. We just under budgeted. So in order to increase the appropriation to spend the money, we have to increase the revenue received.
You know, this is my favorite kind of supplemental appropriation.
Mine too.
May I ask, the savings goes into the contingency fund, the general fund. Is there any notation to that so that if police needs that funding back, that there is recognition that that $250,000 went into general fund?
Yes. So the reason is it goes into the general fund contingency is because the general fund has been traditionally funding those salaries. And if we get the grant would cover a portion of those salaries. So it would be less of an expense to the general fund. So it reverts back to the contingency line item. But we do maintain a tracker of what's in contingency.
And I trust Captain Miguez will track that also.
Yes, they always ensure that the money is used appropriately to the grant. So we track it.
Thank you.
All right. All those in favor, is there a motion for approval of FT 1226?
Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion to give a favorable recognition for SA 1226.
Second.
Yeah. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Thank you to our police folks for being here for an interesting meeting today. All right. Back up. We're on FT 526. This is going to be, if the last one was one of my favorite kinds, I'm not so sure how much I like this kind. Do we want Miss Bate? You coming? Yeah. Yeah, you. I figured it was you. I'm sorry, Allison. I called you Jennifer. So, yeah, I think I understand what's going on here. We found an oil tank in the street when we were trying to repave it, right?
Yes, that's correct. So Allison Amadio, Department of Public Works engineer. A sinkhole had opened up in 4th Street last year or earlier this year, and we did emergency repairs to remove fuel tanks that were actually in the ground that was causing the sinkhole. During the excavation, they found additional tanks. We were not funded to remove all those additional tanks. That's really what this is requesting now. We do need to remove those, as once we started removing the initial tanks, MDE oil control program opened a case for us.
Opened a case as in we're in trouble?
No, we have to report it to MDE oil control program, and they open what they call a case number, and they basically will follow us through to make sure that we do corrective measures.
Gotcha. And this said 4th Street, whatever it is, oil tank removal project or something. That's not its own CIP, correct?
It was not its own CIP originally, and that's where we're asking for this to be created so that we can move funding from the roads program to this, so that we can complete the oil tank extractions. Originally, it was done as an emergency repair because the road had opened up.
So I guess I'm just a little bit unclear of the mechanics here. If we're doing all this as part of the general roads, I mean, we're doing it to fix the road. So why do we need to transfer anything? Maybe this is more a question for Ms. Moran. Why do we need to transfer anything if there isn't a separate CIP that it's going to? And we're really still trying to fix a road.
There would be a separate CIP project associated with it.
So this creates a new CIP.
Correct. Yeah.
Okay.
And it takes the funding from general roads and puts it into a separate project.
Yeah, go ahead.
May I? It is more than, from what I'm understanding, from what I'm reading here, it's not just a road repair. We have to remove these tanks.
Correct. The tanks need to be excavated. Environmental testing also needs to test for contaminants. And then if any downstream contaminants are found, then remediation measures will have to be executed. So it is beyond the scope of the general roads program.
Mm-hmm.
We're just asking this to be a new CIP and to utilize some funds from the road program so that we can get this done. MDE was gracious enough to allow us to close the road when the additional tank was found and let us get past the boat show traffic and then also impacts to the restaurant. It was impacting their outdoor dining, so they agreed to allow us to pause and come back, but indefinitely they will want us to address this sooner rather than later.
Is there grant funding from MDE to assist with removing these contaminants? Or is that a bigger question?
That is a larger question, just knowing from other grant opportunities.
I just thought maybe because they were saying that this is necessary.
Yeah, usually the funding isn't available as money. It's usually as a tax credit situation. But I can't speak to any specific grants at this time.
Okay, I just thought, and I know I'm out of my head to think that MDE would say, you need to do this, and here we have some funding to help you with that. But that's not being realistic, so I'm going to move on. Do we know who owns these tanks, or are they city property?
The tanks are sitting inside the city right of way, and they are so old that we can't determine ownership. So at this point, it was impacting our roads. So we had to move forward with the removal, and they are contained within our right of way. So we're assuming responsibility for them. We are estimating they were installed somewhere in the early 1930s based on our environmental team during the extraction of the original tank.
So my last question, I think, is what other roadway projects are going to be impacted by removing this $600,000 from that line item, if any?
Currently, it will not impact any. It would be more long-term funding just to resurface additional roads down the line in years to come. We could essentially ask for additional funding in the budget next fiscal year to recoup it.
But I mean, we have $3 million allocated for general roadways. I'm of the opinion that that's probably not enough, as much as I love public transit and walkability. And so taking a fifth of that away, frankly, I'm rather loath to do it. So what's the consequence if we don't approve this?
I don't know what MDE's consequence will be, but it will be something through the state, because we do have to address the MDE oil control program open case. So I don't know what their consequence would be for that. On the roadways?
No. I mean, if we do approve it, the consequence on the roadways is 20% fewer roads get resurfaced this year. I'm saying if we don't approve it, because I don't want to do that, what happened? So you were answering my question.
Well, may I follow up? Could MDE come in and close the road because this is an environmental issue for them? And it should be for us also.
I can't speak to what MDE will or will not do.
I'm just asking their capability. Could they, because this is an environmentally sensitive issue, impose restrictions on us, whether it's closing the road or whatever? And maybe Ms. Buckland can weigh in on the seriousness and the severity of this issue. I'm seeing it as an environmental issue,
Yeah.
a contaminant. And so while we may not want to take money from roadways, this is a contaminated problem on 4th Street,
Correct.
which is kind of a big part of our business district in Eastport. So what happens if we don't do this?
I don't think that, given, I think that your instinct, everyone's instinct of taking the situation seriously is appropriate. I hear the reluctance to take money from this particular source. I think that in some sense the question of whether we end up wanting to backfill some of
I was
that.
thinking our flight was 2:30, but it's 1:50.
Just so you know,
O'Neill, was she
Alderwoman
speaking?
O'Neill, you're unmuted.
I think the question of whether you end up wanting to backfill that, I think is something that we can look at. I'd rather not put this off or not do this only for that reason, because here's the project had started here because it initially had been a roadway project. That's why this had been the initial source. It's obviously grown beyond that, but its connection with that original project, I mean, that's why this is the source of funding for the new CIP project. I'd rather, in some sense, deal with the question of do we end up wanting to backfill some of that? I'd rather deal with that as a separate question, if that's all right. I'd rather not put this off. If I were making choices, yeah.
The alternative, if the holdup is because of the reduction in the roadways, would be to use a portion of any remaining capital reserve, which I know we talked about with the $400,000 revision we did. There's about $500 left in that reserve, but if you wanted to have an amendment to use a smaller portion of roadways, the alternative to a revenue source would have to come from there. But just know that that balance is about $500,000. So there are options for revenue if that's the holdup, and not so much targeting the actual expenditure or project, but looking at the revenue source. That's up to you guys.
What, baby? Take $300,000 from capital.
Well, there's only 4.
Well, you just said 500.
There's 500.
Oh, 500. I'm sorry. So
And we could take 300 from capital
I'm good
reserve.
with that.
Yeah.
Alderman O'Neill, are you hearing us?
So I
Are you
guess
comfortable with it?
there is an amendment then proposed to this that would, oops, sorry, I got to pull it up, that would reduce this from $600,000. Well, it would still be $630,000 going into this new CIP, but only $330,000 would come out of general roadways, and the remaining $300,000 would come out of capital reserve. And I expressed a lot of skepticism the last time we were here about taking money out of capital reserve, but in my mind, this is exactly what it's there for. This is we were doing a capital project and we found an emergency. So I am very comfortable with it.
So, Mr. Chair, I'll make the motion for you that
Thank
we
you.
amend this SA to reflect 330,000 coming out of general roadways and taking 300,000 out of the contingency.
Thank you. Is there a second to that?
Second.
Can I just
Yeah.
clarify? It's not the contingency, it's the capital reserve.
I'm sorry,
Okay.
capital reserve. Yes.
Just to
Yeah.
clarify.
Thank you.
Because there are two things.
Yes.
All right. All those in favor of the amendment to the FT say aye.
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 All those opposed? None. Amendment carries. Is there any more discussion on the fund transfer itself?
I do have a question for Ms. Allison, and that has to do with Annapolis Walk. Is that project in roadways or is that in a different line item?
No, ma'am. Annapolis Walk Park is its own capital improvement project.
Okay, so this funding won't impact that project.
Correct. This is just the general roads is
Okay,
just for road repair.
thank you. I'd love an update on that, by the way. Mr. Chair, then I would make a motion that we give FT5 a favorable recommendation as amended.
Is there a second to that?
Second.
All those in favor, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
All right. Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And Ms. Moran, thank you for helping us come up with a solution there.
There is a second one from Public Works. Is Ms. Allison handling that? Oh, okay. Great, thank you.
All right. Oh my God. Did I dismiss I did dismiss police before we got done SA 826. That's what I get for skipping around the agenda.
This one's a simple one. I can answer
Okay.
for them.
Thank you. You want to explain it to us, Ms. Moran?
Or, the SA 826, is that
Yeah.
the one? Yeah. So this is just a grant that we received. It's a 4-year term for the grant funding that we were awarded. The first portion was already budgeted. And now this is just, we did not include in the original grants budget for the 2 years of calendar year 25 and 26. So it's just allowing us to recognize the revenue from the grant and the offset of the expenditure.
Got it. Yep. I remember approving this previously. Any questions? No? Is there a motion for approval of SA 826?
I'll make a motion for, I guess it's not approval.
Yeah. Sorry.
Sorry, you totally
recommendation.
took me. Favorable recommendation for F2 or F8 S826.
Second.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All right. OEM. Good time to shine, buddy. We got a lot of these ones where we're getting money from somebody else today. I like that. So, do you want to briefly explain to us what this $3,940 is for?
Would you turn your mic on, please?
Sorry about that.
Thank you.
So this is coming from, it's return funds from Maryland Department of Emergency Management due to the incident management team moving under a new state agency. So they are returning funds allocated for that. Our plan is to use $2,900 going towards OEM equipment, which will go towards sustaining our Prepare Me Annapolis app that we use to send out public notifications to anybody who opts in. And then we would plan to use the remaining $1,040.06 to go towards our training and education.
Great. That Prepare Me Annapolis app, how much do we spend per year on that?
I believe I would have to look up the last numbers on that, but we usually set aside about 4,000.
Okay. Order of magnitude is fine.
Yeah.
All right. Alderwoman Finlayson, any questions?
I do not. Thank you.
Alderwoman O'Neill? Nope. All right. Is there a motion for favorable recommendation of SA 926?
Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion that we give a favorable recommendation. SA 926.
Second.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. There we go. Thanks for being here.
Thank
Thank
you.
Next up, we got off-street parking. This one was a little confusing, so I'm looking forward to understanding some more about it.
Yep.
Ms.
So,
Moran?
in short summary, what happened was with the FY26 budget, this project was closed because it was a completed project. Remaining appropriation was then put back in for use for other projects. Later down the line, we found out there was an expenditure that hadn't been recorded to the project. It was an actual expenditure of the project. We have to reopen the project and bring that funding back into the project in order to pay that expense. And again, it's coming from the parking fund.
Right.
So we'll be using their reserve to pay the difference in the capital projects fund.
Got it. Okay. That makes sense now that you explained it. Thank you. Any questions? Chair of the Transportation Committee, any questions? No. All right. Is there a motion for a favorable recommendation of SA 1026?
I'll make a favorable recommendation for SA 1026.
Second.
All those in favor, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Excellent. Okay. Now we got our friends from the fire department here. Thank you very much. SA 1126. I have a feeling this has to do with our fireboat. Yep, with our fireboat.
Good morning, Nathan Powell, Operations Deputy Chief, representing Chief Romali. With me is Jeannie Coughlin, Fire Admin Specialist. This is a grant we received from Maryland Department of Natural Resources, Waterway Improvement Grant. It's a 50-50 match grant that we need an essay for that we budgeted. The grant is, for the purpose of the grant, is to purchase new items for our new fireboat that is ordered.
Great. And I'm sorry, so you said the city had already budgeted for that match part, right? That was already expected.
Yeah, we knew but we didn't know if we'd get the grant. It was pending getting the grant, and the grant takes 2 years to find out if you get it or not.
Gotcha.
But
They make you wait 2 years for $32,000?
Yeah, it's crazy.
No, I've actually dealt with DNR on other things. They do take a while with their grants. Okay, so this is not, we're not having to take away money from something else for the match portion that we were already expecting. Okay, great. Works for me. Any questions?
Well, quickly, the boat's not in yet.
Correct.
I'm reading at the end of the year, maybe.
We're anticipating delivery of the boat next summer.
Oh, next summer.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Next, late July, early August is the last time frame.
It's end of fiscal year. It said.
I'm sorry.
It should have said end of fiscal year.
Oh, okay.
Sorry.
Oh, I see.
Wow, it's a good thing we don't need it as an emergency to get it. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, what takes so long with those? I guess they're custom. There's not a lot of folks making them.
They are, yes, sir. It's a custom design built. They build them to order, and as with many supply chain things in our industry right now, they are pretty extended lead time for them.
So I'm sorry, I'm going down a rabbit hole here, but I'm just curious. You know, I know in the U.S. we have so many restrictions on commercial shipbuilding. This is a ship that is for, in my mind, kind of a commercial purpose. It's not a pleasure boat. So are these built in the U.S. or they're built outside of the United States?
So the company Metalcraft Marine that we have purchased from has facilities in Canada and in New York. So it will be a registered, documented, built in the United States. There are components that are being built in Canada, but final assembly happens in New York.
Interesting. Cool. Thank you.
May I follow up, Mr. Chair? We do have a boat.
We do. Yes, ma'am. We currently, our fireboat's currently in service and still responding. This is a replacement for when we take delivery of the new one. The current one will be 20 years old.
Okay, sitting at Carroll's Creek, I've seen our boat go out many times. So I know we have one and I know it's very busy.
Yes,
I'll
ma'am.
just say. So, thank you. Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion that we give a favorable recommendation to SA 1126. I'm sorry, we didn't ask Alderwoman O'Neill. I'll still make the motion.
I did not have any questions, and I'll second that motion.
All right. All those in favor of a favorable recommendation of SA 1126, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Seeing none, motion carries. All right. Thank you guys for being here today.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Now we get to the fun stuff, the legislation. Ms. Leonard, Mr. Flinner, sir from the Market House. I'm sorry, I'm forgetting your name. You guys all want to come up to the table? Keith, I'm sorry, Keith, I forgot your name. Kaylin has a much better memory for names than I do.
Mr. Bouchard.
Can everybody just start by introducing yourself real quickly?
Yeah, Keith Bouchard, 18 Bryce Road, 21409.
Ashley Leonard, Assistant City Attorney.
Matt Flinner, Director of Central Services.
Can we afford more than one mic at that table down there, Mr. Chair?
We do have another one. Cynthia will
There's
help
one
them.
over here.
Yeah. I think someone was smart enough to move them off before the closed session. Well, thanks for some quick work on this, guys, in the last 2 weeks since we talked about it. I'm sure it was not easy to do the additional negotiating. But I understand from Ms. Leonard's email this morning, we do have a new version of the lease. And would you like to just give us the highlights on what's different?
Sure. And I sent a summary with it, but essentially we updated the security deposit amount from to $15,000. The basic rent is going up to $11,000 per month. The performance rent is going to be 1% of amounts over $2 million. Basic rent will increase by 10% every renewal period, which is every 5 years. Performance rent will increase 5% every renewal period, again, every 5 years. The terms are going to be set so that there's an initial term of 5 years. There is an option for an initial renewal period for another 5 years, provided the tenant expends $100,000. And then there are also two additional renewal terms of 5 years each that will be at mutual agreement of the city and the tenant. And I broke down, with help from the acting city manager, sort of in the email, what the current is, meaning what's in the current lease, what was first introduced, and what is now being introduced.
Excellent. Yeah, I think one of the things in here, the only thing I didn't hear you say was this change to the increase in each renewal period, or maybe I just missed it. But I like that we've gone from 5% increase each renewal period up to 10%.
So we went from basic rent was at 5% for every 5-year renewal period. That's up to 10%. Performance rent before had no increase on it, and we added 5% for every 5 years. So we went from 0 to 5 on that. So we increased both by 5%. I also will add, I forgot to add that we, in section 26 on reporting, we also changed the reporting requirements to be a little bit more consistent with some of our newer leases to give you guys some more information.
And when you say give us more information, you mean also the public gets more
Well,
information?
yes, it would
right?
be an annual report that would be presented to the mayor, the city manager, shared with city council, and would become a public document. Yes.
I love that. So I'm going to have a couple of questions, but I just want to go back to one thing you just said. I didn't see it in your email. So there's going to be an increase every 5 years.
Correct.
That baseline amount for the performance rent is going to increase by 5%, you're saying?
Correct. Yes.
So it goes from $2 million to, what's that? To 2.1 million. No, that's 2.01. Yeah,
2.1.
there we go.
2.1.
Thank you. Matt's checking my math.
2.1, yes.
That's great. I think that's very reasonable, and I understand that's kind of a concession on our part, but I think it makes sense.
Yeah, we were trying to, as with every negotiation, you're trying to balance what both parties are able to manage in a working relationship.
Thank you. Alderwoman Finlayson looks like she's about to ask a question. So
I would
just
love
go
to.
ahead.
Thank you. And thank you, Ms. Leonard, for your very concise description of the negotiated agreement. And I'm using my terminology deliberately. So both, and I'm going to ask Mr. Bouchard next, but these are the agreed upon conditions for the new lease.
That's what's been agreed on by the city negotiating team as well as the market house. Yes.
Okay. So in my mind, that's the agreed upon. Could we have a copy of, or did you send it to us?
I sent a PDF of the red line so that you could see what the changes are.
Okay.
If you would like a clean as well, but it's PDF, so that you should be able to pull it up on any device and see exactly what changes are matching for what came through from the last time.
Okay. What I find most helpful is the summary that you gave today.
Okay.
So if you could share that with us.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, I put it in the email, but I could make it into an official summary.
If you send it by email in that 1, 2, 3 bullet, I'm good with that.
Okay.
Mr. Bouchard, what's your reaction to?
I think we're in agreement. I think we've worked pretty hard on this back and forth, and our team is satisfied with where we are. We think that it keeps us in a position where we can continue to contribute to the city and perform in the way that we've been performing without significant alterations to the business plan that could be necessary if the rent went up extraordinarily high, right? So we'd like to keep this a locally owned business. We'd like to keep it, as a, in the model that we've created through the market house. So I think this does it. I think it's not a layup from our standpoint. I think we're going to have to work hard and manage it very well to continue that, but I think we're in a good spot.
Well, thank you. I'm really glad to hear that. And I'll tell you from my perspective and my 19 years here, we've seen Market House folks come and go. And we've seen very difficult negotiations going on and sometimes not successful at all. And so I find this very comforting to know that, and I know there's been lots of criticism about the number of years, but I find that as a benefit because now we can count on our vendor who's in place and who has wanted to work with the city. And the new agreement is a testament to that. So I think we are in a great place, and I look forward to what you're bringing to the Market House in the future. But I think, and I'll speak to the city manager, this is a good place to be in. And if you, like I said, you go back and look at our history over the last 20 or 30 years, it's not pretty. This is what I would consider very ideal. So I want to thank you, Mr. Bouchard, and your team. I want to thank you, Ms. Leonard, for negotiating this for us, and Mr. Feiner for kind of overseeing. But I'm real proud about where we are now. So thank you to everyone.
I feel much more comfortable about this. I feel like we've taken it from a 20-year lease down to essentially a 5-year lease. Maybe you can argue 10, but that just having a lot more control for the city makes me feel much more comfortable. I do have a couple more questions.
Did we lose?
She turned her video off. She might
Yes,
just be
question.
doing something. The security deposit part was not something that this committee had suggested be negotiated on. So I'm just curious how that change was suggested. Was that something from Economic Matters? Why was that seen as a change that was worthwhile?
It came from me. It was just sort of it was one of the numbers we hadn't updated. And so just with everything else, we thought it'd be a good idea to update it.
That makes sense. There's a section in here related to the part about additional renewal terms that says something about compliance, renewal terms came into compliance for any, I'm looking at page 2, Miss. And there's 2 lines to start with, came into compliance, that are struck out. Could you explain those?
Well, they still have to comply. So the old language was set that basically the tenant, that they would get automatic renewals at their choice as long as they were in compliance. We've sort of shifted it. They still have to be in compliance with everything, but now they have to do much more than simply be in compliance. They have to expend the $100,000, and that has to go through the whole process in sections 10 and 11 about repairs and updates. So they still will have to be in compliance. We've just sort of changed the bar. Compliance is sort of like a minimal bar. We've upped it. So I did not legally feel like we needed that extra language because we're already going to have that in place. And the additional renewal terms in particular are at mutual agreement. So we would be part of that table versus we would be at the table to agree to that versus it just rolling automatically. We tend to put in the compliance if it's going to be rolling automatically. If it does make you uncomfortable, we could add it back in. But there are other sections of the lease that already require them to be in compliance.
Yeah, I think I get what you're saying here. We're not taking out the need to be in compliance with city law. It is covered in other sections.
Yeah, it's covered in other sections, and we're just changing it so that to get the renewals is something a bit higher.
Yep, that makes sense to me. I have a feeling this might be my toughest question on here, but the requirement to invest $100,000. Somewhere else in here, there's the suggestion, and I'm sorry, I'm not finding it at the moment, that certain investments can be deducted from the base rate, right? Is that $100,000 subject?
Will be from the performance rent, not the base rent. Base rent has to stay.
Sorry.
So the performance rent, I mean, that is one of the things I didn't get. We could maybe more expressly, I don't think the two were meant to overlap. I think it was they had to spend $100,000. I don't know if I fully clear. I mean, I could make it more clear if that is your desire. But yeah, the base rent, it would never touch. It would just be a performance rent thing. But when I was negotiating that, I did not, I guess, double check how those two would interact, I guess.
May I ask you a question, Mr. Chair? Your question, is it that they would deduct any expenses towards that $100,000 from not the base rent, but the other rent?
No, the part about the performance rent was that it was essentially as if the city had to do repair. We do have certain repair obligations, and we asked them to do it. Then they could deduct those rather than us having to mobilize and procure and everything. But I will, and I think it reads clean, but I didn't double check that section, but I can double check the section. But that's more for that part. The $100,000 was for what they need to spend. The deductions from just performance rent is if, for instance, we are in charge of exteriors, a lot of the exterior repairs. If we didn't want to do the exterior repairs and we had them do them on our behalf, then obviously they could deduct that because that's city responsibility.
Yeah, but Mr. Bouchard, it's your understanding that this $100,000 is not deductible in that way, right?
My understanding was that it was part of it could be deducted from the performance rent based on necessary capital expenditures to maintain the building. So, and that would be up to discussion between us and the city to determine which of those qualify. I'm not a real estate expert myself at all, but my understanding, what I've learned and been told, is that that is a typical arrangement with the performance rent. Is that it often is used for build outs and maintenance and things of that nature. So that's the way we were looking at it.
All right.
And that it has to do. So I found the section. It's on page 6. So it requires mutually agreeing. It requires a written amendment. And it allows the tenant to use some or all of the year's performance rent to make specifically agreed upon improvements to the premises in accordance with the section's own alterations instead of paying such monies to the city's performance rent. So if you wanted to tweak the section, that would be it. But what we were looking at here is they can't automatically do it. They have to have a written agreement, an amendment to this that says exactly what they're doing, which would be deducted. So it wouldn't just be they can do something and back charge it. It would have to be an upfront discussion about what we would be using. And if it long term, if it is in the benefit of our facility and everyone at the city thinks it's a good use to improve our asset, that's when it would become the written amendment.
Yeah, I'm comfortable with that. The way that it was in the lease that we saw.
Yeah, and that hasn't changed.
My question is just, I don't want this. We're essentially making some relatively minor, but we're making some concessions who have gotten this additional $100,000 requirement of investment, and I don't want that $100,000 to then just get deducted from the performance rent.
Okay,
Because
so
then that would.
You are thinking then you want that more clarified in either that section, probably one or both of those sections, essentially, is what you're saying.
Yeah, and with that being clear that $100,000, it's actually $100,000, not something that they're putting $100,000 in and then we're giving them a $50,000 credit for or something like that. Then I would be comfortable moving forward.
If I can give maybe an example of something that I think was in the spirit of the way the lease is written, and Mike have to explain it, is like the renovations of the public bathrooms, right? So those are publicly available bathrooms. We maintain them, we clean them, et cetera. And people that use them don't have to be customers of any business within the market house. But we'd like to do a very significant renovation on those, basically gut them and redo them, in January, hopefully, pending the approval of the lease extension. I think that would be a great use of that part of the agreement, right? So that some of that can be used to qualify towards that $100,000.
I think that makes a lot of sense. I just want to make sure we're not then turning around and deducting that from the performance rent in the way that we've just described, which in general, I think makes sense, right? But for city obligations, it makes sense to be able to deduct that. But I think the point is that $100,000 should be a lessee obligation. So if we can make that clear, then I'm willing to make a favorable recommendation. Seems we've lost Alderwoman, but Alderwoman Finlayson, you got anything else?
No, I'm very comfortable with it.
Okay.
Thank you.
So, Ms. Leonard, what would be the appropriate way for us to do that?
Presuming that New Market House is in agreement with it, I would probably add language to like section 2 that says that the $100,000 does not qualify under as a possible deduction under section 6. So under section 6C, I'd probably tie section 6C and section 2B2 sort of together and say that the $100,000 required under section 2B2 may not be deduct it from performance rent under section 6C, provided it would be something along those lines.
Works for me.
So are we looking at that as an amendment to, or?
Yes, I would consider that an amendment to what.
Okay. So our motion would be favorable with.
Mhm.
Uh,
So are you ready for?
yeah, I'm ready to do
And
that.
just to be clear,
yeah.
I'd have to go back to the partners on that because that's something that was not in the way it was written. So we'd have to, confirm that.
I understand, and I've said this before. I do hate the idea of the city council getting too involved in negotiations, but I think that's an important guardrail. If this is one of the terms, I just want to make sure we're clear on how it works.
Would it be acceptable to add the language in there that offset, the $100,000 requirement is a given, but the fact that it could offset the performance rent would be tied to a capital expenditure that is deemed to be beneficial to the city and the building itself? Example would be the bathroom renovation, right? That is a permanent fixture, for the life of the renovation, of course, but it's a permanent fixture in the building. It's an investment in the building. It's a community benefit. It's publicly available. I think that would be a reasonable accommodation to that.
Well, let's ask Ms. Leonard.
Oh, I mean, I can write it however you guys want to. So what he's essentially saying is that I would write out language that says the $100,000 cannot be deducted from performance rent unless it's tied to a capital expenditure that benefits the city. So that would remove things like if he's replacing ovens or, tables or things of that nature. But there'd still be a little bit of just flexibility that we would have to determine if it's, beneficial to us. But that's essentially, it would be $100,000 cannot be deducted from performance rent unless it's tied to a capital expenditure that directly benefits the city.
Basically, it's in another way of saying it, I think, is that the city would be agreeing to commit to spending some of the performance rent on city agreed upon capital expenditures. That's really the same thing, because we're going to be paying the performance rent anyway. We're going to be committing to spending $100,000, and the city would then agree for perhaps a portion of that would be allocated to a capital improvement on the interior of the building itself. Like the example is the public bathrooms.
I think that's reasonable request, and the way Ms. Leonard has outlined it. I guess my only question is, who would decide? Or would it have to be a CIP item, or how do we make it?
Because it would go through a written amendment, it would go through the normal approval process for any amendment, which is the director would propose it. Generally, finance director would sign off on it, city attorney would sign off on it, city manager, and then mayor would sign.
Well, that says that's the amendment that you're referring to.
Yeah, but in order to do this, they would need an amendment. So it would have to go through. So it might initially be done technically, the director of central services is assigned as the overseeing director for it. He might make the initial determination, but it would still have to get vetted all the way up.
Yeah, that's not my question, though. I understand what you're saying. But getting beyond the agreement, next year, January, when they decide to do the restrooms, is there a process? Do they come to Mr. Finner?
Yes.
And get the okay to move forward? Is that what?
Correct. Yeah, there's paragraphs 10 and 11 already in the lease deal with how they have to get any sort of alteration or repair approved. And that would be through Director Leonard.
Okay, and renovations of a bathroom is considered an alteration?
Alteration, I use a lot of other words, but yes, it basically covers pretty much any change.
Okay, that's a reasonable amendment in my mind.
I'm not sure I am for it. I think the $100,000 should be $100,000, right? If we're making this big So my big issue all along has been with the terms that we're extending it for. And I think the argument behind why we want to have a longer term for it and why we want to extend it at all is so people can make investments. If we're putting $100,000 in here, I want it to be the money that they're investing and not city money, not money that would otherwise be coming into the city's general fund. So I'm not sure what the appropriate thing to do here is because I'm not going to sit here and negotiate every bit of the lease. But
So the thing that I want to come back to is something that Ms. Leonard said earlier, which is that any offset, it has to be mutually agreed upon. So it's never just automatic anyway. So I think part of what I hear from you is a concern that the city would not have a voice in deciding that, but that's already part of the lease, is that the city has a voice in that. And I think that as a long-term matter, this spans years, and we don't necessarily have a crystal ball at this point to know what all will come up, what ends up being reasonable on which side, which is why the lease is structured in a way that requires communication over an agreement over what are we doing here. And I think that mechanism is sort of the important feature in there, not necessarily trying to decide now what things fit where, because I think our ability to predict that far into the future is sufficiently limited. I think having that ability and that control that the city always has a voice, I think is that's why it's there, is as a safeguard, so that that's not a one-sided decision.
Go ahead.
I don't want us to lose sight of the fact that we're looking for an impact that the vendors will have on our property. So, for example, going back to the restroom option, that's going to benefit us in the short term and the long term. And so there is not a direct benefit to the vendors for doing this other than, the obvious, but it will benefit a city property into perpetuity. So I want us to keep that in mind and in the forefront that, this, whatever projects come along that may want to utilize some of this funds, it should be something that's going to benefit the city and our property. So Mr. Chair, I don't know where we are because I think Alderwoman O'Neill has left the party.
Yeah, she has.
I would make a recommendation that we give a favorable recommendation for 033 as the Finance Committee has amended.
So I want to be clear on what that amendment is.
Would you ask all?
Yeah, I know we've just had a couple spitballs from Ms. Leonard.
So it would be the best way is that the what do I call it? Hold on. That the $100,000 investment for the initial term improvements cannot be deducted from the performance rent unless tied to city agreed upon capital expenditures.
Okay, I think I can live with that, right? Unless the city is saying we're okay with that it is so worthwhile to us that we're okay with it. All right, I can live with that.
You're going to second it?
So I'm going to second your motion. And I understand, Mr. Bouchard, this is new language. We're introducing it in a committee meeting. I hear you. You have to make sure that's okay with your partners.
Yeah, we're trying to be good partners, and I think that's in the realm of partnership. But I can't speak for the partners of the business. I have to go back to them. But.
Yeah. All right. So I seconded your motion. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. And with that, we've made a favorable recommendation on 03325.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you.
Last up, 03725, City Capital Facilities Charges Payment Plan. I hope this is a relatively easy one. I don't see anybody from Public Works to speak on it. I know this is Alderman Chandlemeyer's bill, and I've had a fair amount of discussion with him on it. I've talked with planning and zoning. So I could explain it a little bit if you want, Alderwoman Finlayson.
That would be great.
Basically, it's changing when, I think it's planning and zoning, it might be Public Works, charges for capital facilities upgrades on certain development. So right now, folks have to pay those fees before the units are built. And this legislation would give the option for the director only on small projects, right? And that's really important. Only on ones that are 6 or fewer dwelling units. You pay those fees after the units are built, but before they are occupied. So the idea here is to just try and minimize a borrowing cost for small developments so that we can put those folks who are, if you're doing 100 unit development, you've got financing, you're fine. But if you're somebody who is, building a fourplex maybe on Tyler Avenue, right? We passed on Monday. You might not have that. So that's his logic on it. I think it makes sense. I'm willing to approve this. But does the city manager have anything to add?
Yeah, that's that. My understanding is the same, that it's a timing intended to help minimize those borrowing costs and make it easier for folks. It doesn't reduce. It's just time.
Yeah.
May I ask how this impacts the resident, the buyers?
It doesn't have a direct impact on the residents. Wouldn't delay people moving in, right? Because all that stuff would still have to be in place before a use and occupancy came in anyway. Presumably minimized borrowing costs from the developer would be reflected in their overall cost for the project, which might make that potentially has some benefit for residents. Obviously not my area of expertise, so that's theoretical on my part. But any of those impacts are indirect, and the indirect impacts potentially are in a positive direction.
So this is totally borne by the developer,
which they are now. I mean, it's the developer that pays those now,
right?
And they would continue to.
And then they pass those costs on to the homeowner. And so that process won't change.
Correct.
It won't increase the homeowner's, opportunity to buy. Okay.
It might slightly decrease those costs, I think, as the city manager was saying, and hopefully significant, because the person building them would not have to finance the cost of these for as long. They wouldn't have to float them for quite so long. So it would hopefully actually decrease the cost of those units for the buyer.
Okay, I'm good. Thank you.
All right. Is there a motion for approval of 03725?
I'll make a favorable recommendation for 03725.
All those in favor? I'll second it. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Okay.
All right. We just got our finance director update.
So Vicki, myself, the mayor, we all just got back from New York, our bond rating agency presentations. Happy to share the presentation. It highlights a lot of things about the city. All went really well. We're optimistic about our rating, and we should be receiving reports next week over a continuous of 3 days, and we will issue reports and ratings at that time in anticipation of our bond sale the first week of November. So that's the only real life update I have. All good things, and looking forward to our ratings.
Me too.
Will we actually get a copy?
Of
You
the
said-
rating
yeah.
report? Yes. Yep.
Yeah.
That'll all be public information and we will send it. We have to approve the report that the Moody's and the financial, whatever they put out to us, we have to approve. It's a quick turnaround of what we're going to allow or be in agreement with. So we just fact check their numbers and make sure there's nothing that shouldn't be in the report. And then it's released, it's public information, but we will let you know as soon as it comes out.
Did I hear you say that there has to be an approval or an acceptance by the council?
No, not by the council. It's just I will review the report just for factual information, circulate it to Office of Law just to make sure there's nothing in there that legally cannot be public information because they are publicly released reports. We don't get to argue our rating. We just get to get to agree to what information is in the report.
Well, let me ask, did you meet with all the rating agencies, all three of them?
Yeah, she's underselling quick turnaround. She has 2 hours.
Whoa.
And they come in we get rating reports from 3 agencies and they give us a time frame and said, block off your calendar, be ready. You have 2 hours to turn it around. So that's 3 days of next week. So.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
I think I don't think I have any questions. Well, everything looking good. So we do have a new council potentially coming in. Are there, I think I was discussing this with Ms. Buckland the other day, or maybe it was somebody else, opportunities to educate the new council, I think particularly on the budget and finance. So this is less a question, more a request of just, we're going to have a bunch of new council members and it might behoove you all to start thinking now about how we teach them about.
Oh yeah, we've been thinking about we've definitely been thinking about all of that. There's a lot to learn, as you guys well know, and so budget is definitely part of that, but only part of it. It really is in many ways an introduction to all of the city. As you guys know all too well, you are charged with understanding and overseeing and shepherding kind of the whole city system. The stuff that's very visible and the stuff that's not very visible. And so having some familiarity with how do those pieces fit together and how do they work, and it's a lot of information, and so we're definitely in it.
May I ask who's doing the orientation?
It ends up being everyone. There are some of the more technical parts of introduction to the code. How does the council itself function as a body and stuff like that really gets led by Office of Law. But then every department ends up having a piece of describing their own part of that system. So there's obviously, part of my task will be to help build some of the skeleton that then that detailed information gets hung on. But everybody ends up having a role in that.
So who's coordinating it? And it's sounding like there's going to be several days when the new council and the existing council should be coming in to be exposed, I'll say, to each of the departments and their roles, which is separate and apart from the roles of the council itself. So are you coordinating all of those pieces?
The overall coordination in terms of kind of what happens when, what are the main topics, that sort of falls to me. We've been having some conversation about that with the directors for a couple months now. So,
may I encourage you to step up and take the lead in this? Because, I've seen over the years how scattered it can be, and everybody doesn't get everything if there's no coordinated effort. I know it's a monumental task, but you've already put certain pieces in place, and that is your directors who come, they are under your line of authority. There are other pieces that don't fit into departments that have to be shared, I'll just say.
Mm-hmm.
So I would hope that maybe you would be able to coordinate all of that and make it clear that it's important that all the new members attend.
Yes.
I don't know, you can't make people do stuff, but I think it's vitally important that they come in with a strong knowledge of how this city works.
Yep. I would agree.
Thank you. Mr. Chair, I think I'm finished. How about you?
I'm finished. Thank you all.
Then, and Alderwoman O'Neill, she was with us a minute ago. If she has nothing else, I'll make a motion that we adjourn.
Thank you very much. I have, I'll second it. And all those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye. Is this our last?